I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, November the 13th, brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda, a bold, straight shooting tulathromycin injection that does what it's supposed to do for you, for your cattle, and for your bottom line. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards, they got a big week at JRS this week. Starting out with a big feeder cattle sale here today on Monday, starting at 5:30 in the morning, expecting around 8,000 head for the regular Monday feeder cattle sale, including at least 35 loads of true yearlings. So kind of ganging up on a yearling special there. Of course, be lots of calves there. Special cow sales coming up on Wednesday, this Wednesday the 15th. It'll be at 4:30 in the afternoon after the weigh-ups that start that morning. But included in this cow offering at the special cow sale, of course, they're going to have lots of bred cows and pairs, but they've got 3 loads of fancy replacement heifers coming from Kansas, and they'll be the real deal. Also on Friday, I got a Show Me Select replacement heifer sale, and that starts at 7 p.m. That's the program that works with the University of Missouri and the extension. They go through those heifers and screen them for a lot of different things. I used to be involved in that whenever I was in Missouri with USDA. But that's a good program, selling those real fancy heifers. Of course, they're all checked out, pelvic measured and everything, and bred to the right kind of bulls. But you might want to check out the Show Me Select replacement heifer sale. It's going to be on Friday at Joplin. Cattle on feed cloud looms over us. Of course, last week a lot of your pressure was blamed off of some of your early estimates of this Friday, this coming Friday's cattle on feed report, and they weren't widely spread. It was mostly in-house estimates that some of the different trading companies do that are involved in the livestock futures there. But they're expecting our cattle on feed to be about the same as a year ago, where earlier in past months we figured by the time we got here we'd be running below. But when they don't slaughter very many of them, those cattle are still on feed, right? For the most part. And so that's going to be a problem. We know that our marketings are going to be really light on this Friday's cattle on feed report. Because we just haven't sold very many, because your packers have slowed the chain speeds down to nearly nothing because they were getting so close to the red ink, and heaven forbid they ever have to do that for any period of time through the year. Our placements are up in the air like they always are. So we'll just have to see. We'll get the average of the analyst guess here in the next few days, and we'll take a look at it then. But of course, all of your different analysts, tech analysts, and those, and kind of ag media have been talking about what's caused this board to be so wildly volatile. Here of late, you'd have a day where it seems kind of normal, and then the next day you wake up, and it's down $4 or $5 or $6, and it's just been throwing everybody for a loop. I've had more calls and messages since last Thursday, I think, than I've ever gotten from people that are just bewildered with this board, and they're just scared to look at it every day because it's so wildly volatile, and it's not going back up in big ways, it's just going down in big ways, and we have lost a ton of market position on the board. Of course, our cash markets are falling too. But it's getting very frustrating when we know that nothing has changed fundamentally at all, other than just how everybody perceives things. It seems like that's the way everything is. That's the way politics is, news, just society anyway. How does somebody perceive this information? Does it hurt their feelings? Does it get them excited? How are they reacting to a certain thing that happened or certain news? I hate that. But I think it's just your packers screwing with the futures market. It's lightly traded. Doesn't take that much money, especially when you got as much money as they do, just to tank the futures whenever your fat cattle market is getting too high, and they don't want to have to pay for that. That's the one thing they can control. The biggest is what they pay for the fat cattle. They just tank the futures market. And you know, we get every week we get a report of you know, who's trading or who's making the big trades or where the positions are at. Well, you know, and it says corporates or funds or whatever. I think it should tell us, you know, is it a packer interest or not? Be straight up with us, you know. And I've said, you know, in recent weeks, producers and cattle feeders, they can't even go long the futures market because of fear of losing their lender. And so that doesn't hardly make for fair whenever your cattle feeders can't even bet on their home team, and the packers can do whatever they want. And of course they've got all the gold, so they're going to make the golden rule at the end, we all know. But there has been some news here that's kind of bearish, and it goes right along with backing up of fat cattle, because your packers have just slowed the change so much. But late last week, USDA changed their estimate for next year's beef production. They're now saying it's going to be 25.878 billion pounds, down 4.2% from this year. So you think, well, that should be bullish. No, that adjustment is up 500 million pounds from just a month ago. So I guess that they think we're going to put that many cattle off from the end of this year till early next year. I don't know. That was the estimate. And so if we haven't been slaughtering that much, what are we eating? Well, everybody assumes that we're exporting less of our beef and importing more of other countries, and that's true. U.S. beef exports this year estimated to be 14% lower than last year. So down 14% on our beef exports. Ours is just too expensive. I know our dollar's been falling of late, but our dollar's been fairly strong in comparison to some of our customers. And so it's just not the end. Plus it's high. It's high for us too. So we're not real competitive with some of the other beef exporting countries. And then our beef imports are up from January through September. Our beef imports from other countries into here are up 6%. And now they're saying that we're going to be opening up our beef for Paraguay. I've never been to Paraguay. I don't know how they do things there, but I can't imagine that it's as safe health-wise and cleanliness and things like that as what we are here. But do we really need more beef products from Paraguay coming in? You know, I guess you know, and the packers are the ones that get to benefit from that. They're the ones doing most of that blending and that kind of thing, because most of what we get from those countries are just big cuts of brush-fed beef. Doesn't have any flavor to it, and then we have all this fat trim, and then we throw it in the hopper with that crap, and it makes something that's pretty palatable, what we're used to. So that's the kind of, we're not getting, you know, ribeye rolls and things like that from them. We're just getting stuff to mix up. But you know, we're expecting there's going to be more beef produced. It's going to be still less, and we're continuously going less, but we have upped the estimate from last year because there's more heifers on feed, as people have not started retaining heifers at all, which is going to make us even lighter on supply going forward. But those heifers are on feed right now. We've been getting quite a bit of cattle from Mexico. I mentioned on our last visit over 330-some thousand more than a year ago. A lot of those are spayed heifers that's coming from Mexico, and those are going on feed once again. But I assume that we'll probably see a lot more volatility this week leading up to that cattle on feed report. Is it going to be leaked like it appeared to be on our last cattle on feed report, when that's when all this started, when the board tanked the Thursday before the last cattle on feed report come out on Friday. So we just hope we don't see any more of that. That is a shock to our market system, and it's not healthy at all. Let's talk about your cattle futures for last week. December live cattle futures, Monday were down 255, Tuesday down 255 also, Wednesday up 62 cents, Thursday down 505. Algorithms, big dump from our insurance companies that handle the LRPs, offsetting their risk, are things that are blamed on that, but that is a big jolt. Friday the board didn't heal up, but it behaved quite a bit better. It was just down 17 cents on December live cattle contract, ending the week at 174.17, down $9.70 for the week on our spot December live cattle contract, and that is a long ways south of what our cash weighted average is going to be, even though it was a bunch lower. But February live cattle futures ended the week at 174.65, down $10.57. That seems like a lot, guys. November feeder cattle, Monday was down 342, Tuesday down 495, Wednesday up 232, Thursday down 555. It's crazy. And then Friday up 72 cents, with November feeder cattle ending the week at 229.72, down 10.88 for the week. January contracts ended the week at 226.42, down 13.33. Wildly volatile. Corn for December ended the week at 464 bushel. That was 13.25 cents lower. November beans ended the week at 13.33.5. That was up 6 cents. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for December ended the week at 640, which was down 3.5 cents a bushel compared to the end of the previous week. Fat cattle trade through Thursday, 38,500. That's probably more than what we thought. Remember, the previous week we didn't sell hardly anything through Thursday. I told people they ought to be locking the gates, and they didn't. They took significantly less money, and everybody's now saying, boy, aren't you glad that they didn't listen to you and lock the gates? Now they'd have to sell them on this much lower market. I don't think the market would be that much lower if they hadn't took the lower money the end of the previous week. But live sales of fat cattle in your 5 area feed yard, 178 to 182, $3 to $4 lower. Your weighted average on live steers up through Thursday's trade, 180.11, down 478 compared to the end of the previous week. Dress trade in the 5 area feeding region, 280 to 287. That's $5.75 to $7 lower. And your weighted average on dress steers, 286.14, up through Thursday, down 578. So your cash market was down a bunch, but about half as much as what your futures were down. Friday we didn't have much trade, so we don't expect those to change very much. Iowa sold about 200 head, 14,100 for the week. They sold a big group of heifers at 174. We hadn't seen anything that low. I'm not sure why they were off the market. They had them in the highest, the 80% choice and better quote. Why somebody would sell good heifers like that, I don't know. Maybe they had some heiferettes on them. Maybe they had some other things going on with them. But your packers sure wanted to get that out there and get it seen. That is not the market at all. Market's about 180 live. They did have some mixed cattle, which normally sell well off the market, sell at 178 in Iowa. They sold about 1,000 in Nebraska on Friday, 14,500 head for the week. The only quote we saw on Friday was a big string of heifers at 276, and that was lower than we'd seen all week, so I'm not sure. I think your market is about 180 live and about 286 or 7 on a dress basis there. But Kansas didn't sell anything. They sold 8,100 for the week. Texas didn't sell anything. They only sold 3,000 last week. Box beef cutout values were lower. Your choice cuts, the weighted average on all of last week's sales, $300.15, down $4.56 compared to the previous week's weighted average. But your late Friday sales were some higher than that, at $300.46 for Friday afternoon. Quote, select weighted average on all of last week's sales, down $7.52 at $269.54. And your late Friday sales were about $2 cheaper than that. But choice select spread on your weighted average of all of last week's sales, $30.61, which we wouldn't be surprised at that leading into this holiday, but the demand should be better. And 699 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings, which is pretty impressive. Your slaughter for last week, only 618,000, 14,000 less than the previous week. And here's the deal, what we've been talking about since I've been talking, is the light slaughter. Last week's slaughter was 52,000 head less than the same week a year ago. So, you know, the packers are controlling the supply. Talk about what else is going on. EverAg can handle your risk. You must continually plan to protect your operations profitability along with limiting downside risk when facing volatile markets like we're in right now. Navigate risk management with Ever.ag. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DVAuction ended the week last week at $229.45. That was down $5.40 for your real-time index 7-day moving average based on an 800-pound steer, cash auction steer, down $5.40. That's not too bad when you look at your November spot feeder cattle contract, and it was down nearly $11. So your cash feeders, your cash fats were down about half what the board took off last week. But your calf market was lower than that in some places, especially on big calves. But you look at last week's markets in your sale barns, we started the week out a little bit higher because we were coming in off of lows from the previous week. Then we started getting a little bit lower towards the middle of the week, and then after Thursday's board, sharply lower in our Thursday, Friday sales. Like most of what we're selling is a lot of calves, not a lot of true yearlings out there, but $10 to $15 lower in your sales by the end of the week. Your big sales on Friday and Saturday. Friday, Fort Pierre Livestock Auction, Fort Pierre, South Dakota. They sold 9,200 head. The Pee-wee steer calves were mostly steady. 450 to 650 pound steer calves, $10 to $15 lower. 650 to 700 pound steer calves, $5 to $7 lower. Yearlings were not well tested. The heifers weighing 400 to 600 pounds were 10 to 12 lower, with spots of $15 lower. So we would expect that, but they still had some really impressive quotes, including Fort Pierre Livestock Auction, 98 thinner steers weighed 559 in the heavy fives, bring 297. That was an impressive quote. And then on the heifer side, they sold 77 replacement quality light heifer calves weighing 493 at 301, and that's heifers, guys. Pretty good still. Some other sales that were quoted all around. Talked to Nick Hayes from Winter, South Dakota at Winter Livestock Auction. He said they sold some more of those cattle that were in the feedlot. Sold them, they stayed in the lot, but they sold them on sale day there at Winter Livestock. 1,169 head of black and black baldy steers in the lot weighing 1080, brought 215.30. Thought that was kind of interesting. You don't see that happen every day. How about Mankato Livestock, Mankato, Kansas? Neil Beret sells 65 steers, weigh 887 at 233. That's in the heavy eights, guys. Well over our index values there on RTI. Fort Scott Livestock Market in Fort Scott, Kansas. DVAuction broadcaster there on Saturdays sells 132 steers, weighed 659 at 278. That's impressive. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere late last week or over the weekend in your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, come out of Winter Livestock Auction, Winter, South Dakota, was 68 steers, weighed 513. That bring 314. That might be more than what you thought they would bring, but that's a stick out sale there. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.